And joining me now is Detroit Regional Chamber CEO Sandy Baruah. Sandy, welcome back to My Week. It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me, Christy.
All right, you have this big report come out. When you take a look at some of these numbers, it's an extensive look at where we are as a region. What is the one thing that pops out saying, I hope we see growth here?
For me, the most important thing is per capita income growth, and that is an area because we've had this conversation in our country, not just here in the region, over the last 10 to 15 years of how personal income growth has stagnated. Year over year in the Detroit region, we've had personal income growth of 6.4%. And over 5 years, it's closer to 11%. I mean, it's an incredible growth story in terms of how much people's incomes are rising here.
So we're seeing that growth pattern, but when you look at the number itself, it's around $31,000 a year. So then when you take that next step and say, how do we push this even further? How do you make sure those numbers keep going in the right direction?
Yeah, so that's a whole bunch of different factors. There's no silver bullet for that. So first of all, to put that $31,000 rough number into perspective, that's still about $10,000 less per year than the average person working in Seattle. So we still have a lot of room to go and to grow. But in order to keep that number growing, there's the first things we need to do. First of all, we need to ensure that our education system is functioning and well at the K through 12 level and through adult education, community colleges, 4-year. And as you've talked on this show quite a bit, that's a red flashing light on our radar screen. The other one is making sure that the jobs we're attracting to this region are actually the jobs of tomorrow and not the jobs of yesterday. And when you see the work that our auto companies are doing to morph into next generation mobility, when you see the work that Dan Gilbert and companies like him are doing to attract technology workers here, we're doing that. We just need to do more of it.
Yeah, so we're looking at #1 in mobility for Michigan and for the area. Also, we're still seeing very strong automotive and really strong also in looking at healthcare. Yeah. That continues to grow over 15 years.
Yeah, healthcare has been a growing sector across the nation, but particularly in Southeast Michigan. I don't think people really understand what world-class healthcare delivery systems we have here in Michigan, and also the high percentage of insured people we have in Michigan, and the high level of research that's taking place in the healthcare, especially through the University Research Corridor, U of M, University of Michigan, and Wayne State. We're a medical powerhouse here.
When you finally see all of these numbers and the data that you've been able to put together all in one place, what does that signal to businesses who may want to locate here? What kind of place is Southeast Michigan putting itself in front of to see, gosh, how much more can we grow and attract business here?
The word is promising. The way this data, if you look at this data, it is promising in several different fronts. One, people say that if you're an optimistic person, the glass is half full. Well, I'll tell you right now, from our perspective, the glass is 3/4 full. We have a record of success and economic growth that is not just a one-year, flash in the pan. This is 5 years of sustained economic growth that is real, tangible, and sustainable. Secondly, when I say the glass is 3/4 full, it means that we still have a ways to go. I mean, education is primarily one of the issues. Community health and well-being is another one. Getting our labor force participation rate up to kind of a national average. All of those things need to be done, but those are areas that we can work on. And because we're so strong now in so many areas and we have this record of success, we're in a much better position to tackle those sticky wicket issues than we were maybe 5 or 10 years ago.
So when you take those numbers, you take a look at them, and it kind of correlates a little bit. I know that the bid for Amazon has already been put out there, but for that next Amazon campus that may want to come here in Detroit, and they look at what you've been able to assemble and say, this is the glass half full sort of thing. Are we ready for that next pitch to another big company should we not land the Amazon campus?
Yeah, absolutely. And this exercise of the Amazon bid that was led by the mayor and Dan Gilbert really kind of showed, one, how much progress we've made as working together as a region. I mean, I don't think we could have done this 5 or 10 years ago, but I mean, Oakland County, Macomb County, Wayne County, the city, the businesses, we all kind of came together very quickly and said, listen, we're going to do this together. Put it in a little bit of perspective, Christy. There are 55 regions across the country that qualify for the Amazon bid based on some basic criteria. They got over 230 bids. So that means a lot of places qualified, didn't qualify, submitted a bid, and a lot of regions put in multiple bids. We only put in one, which is the way to do it.
Have you been encouraged by what you would say regional cooperation around here? Where are we compared to where we were 10 years ago when it comes to getting together?
Day and night. I mean, if there's any silver lining to Detroit's municipal bankruptcy or the bankruptcy that we saw in the auto sector and kind of the lost decade that we had here in the state, is that people understand that we're all in this together. When you look at the suburban-urban partnership between how people in the suburbs now care about what's happening in the city of Detroit, they're actually now proud of what's happening in the city of Detroit. That's a sea change. When you look at how our county executives and our communities are working so much better together than we were a few years ago, I say it's a night and day difference. And again, we understand that, when people think Detroit, they think Michigan, and when they think Troy, they think Detroit. I mean, Detroit is our brand name, but Detroit is more than just the city proper of Detroit. It is this entire region that is the 11 counties of Southeast Michigan. That's what the rest of the world knows us as. You
brought up education twice now as the big, I think, red flag in the state of Michigan as a whole, not even just the region, and where we need to move forward. What is the role of the Detroit Regional Chamber, you think, in going forward in impressing upon our policymakers and perhaps even the governor to say, you need to take this up and you need to do something with a concerted effort now?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of, I'm just going to call it pressure, but good pressure, to say that, the business community needs to take a much more active role in addressing the education challenge, not just in the city of Detroit, but statewide. So we're doing a handful of things right now, but we're going to do more. So first of all, we run the education scholarship in the city of Detroit, the Detroit Promise, guaranteed 2-year or 4-year college for any student that goes to school in the city of Detroit. And that's something we run, supported by the Michigan Education Excellence Foundation. We are also heavy in the policy front, trying to figure out what is the right policy. And one of the things that we worked on most recently is ensuring that the state Board of Education keeps high education standards. We fought for that a few years ago with Business Leaders from Michigan. We were successful in getting that done, and now the state board actually wanted to take a step backwards. Fortunately, Donald Trump's Department of Education kind of shot that down. That kind of showed how kind of contrary it was to the value of what we need to do in this nation, which is to raise education standards, not water them down.
Let me ask, and when I think about education and kind of the next generation of what our workforce is going to be here in the state of Michigan, I think about skilled trades, and a lot of that was addressed in the report that the Chamber put out this week. What are companies saying in terms of the amount of education and skilled trades that we have? And especially I'm looking at the city of Detroit, when we see all of these new construction projects and things coming in right now, do we have those workers to fill those jobs, the need that we're going to have, which is sometimes a good problem, saying that we have so much coming forward?
Right. So the answer to that question, Christy, is no, we don't. The only good news is that nobody does. There is a skill shortage across the country. The area in which Southeast Michigan does exceptionally well is kind of in the high-end STEM jobs, engineering, science, mathematics. We actually have the highest percentage of engineers in the nation right here in Southeast Michigan. We have the number 6th highest percentage of PhDs in the nation in this region. So at that very high end, we do very, very well. Skilled trades is a challenge all across the country, including here in Southeast Michigan. But this is where we have this duality here. We do really well at the high end in education, especially we've got world-class educational institutions. We're not doing well in the K through 12 system. So the K through 12 system in Southeast Michigan, and particularly in the city of Detroit, is declining within the state of Michigan, and the state of Michigan is declining within the overall United States picture. And unfortunately, the United States is declining compared to our international competitors. Yep. So there's no good news in that picture.
Give me a big picture look, Sandy. I think maybe 5 years ago, you might not have predicted you would see the numbers that you saw in this report, and happy about the growth in many, many areas. Take me 5 years from now. Where do you think this region could be, and where do you think it should be?
Yeah. So the things that we're seeing that are positive, the drop in unemployment rate, the growth in private sector jobs, over 200,000 new private sector jobs, those need to continue. The area we need to make progress on are you know, so we've talked about education, so we know that is a red flashing light. The other one is health and well-being. When you look at the Gallup index of communities in terms of their health and well-being, you know, the Detroit region, and now this is smaller than the 11 counties because Ann Arbor has its own ranking, we're in the bottom quartile in the Detroit region. Ann Arbor's actually in the top quartile. They're in the top 30. They're doing very, very well. That's a challenge on a couple different fronts. One, it's an economic development deterrent because when a company from Seattle or Denver or Portland is thinking about, you know, moving to you know, our region, they're going to look at that and say, wait a minute, are you healthy enough? What does that mean for my productivity? What does that mean for my healthcare costs? What does it mean for the health of my employees? So we need to address that problem as well.
All right. Well, Sandy Baruah, CEO of the Detroit Regional Chamber, thanks so much for joining me. And we'll have a link to your report online so people can read the entire thing for themselves and take a look at some of the detail.
There's great stuff in there. So thank you very much.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.